What do you think? So I realized I was bi when I was in like maybe 11th grade was when I like came to terms with it.
So I think I knew I was bi when I was, I think like 14, so like beginning of high school. I had like a crush on my best friend who was a girl, and after, when I was 15 was my first relationship with a girl who was my best friend, and things just kind of developed from there.
I went through a breakup about almost a year and a half ago, and I was actually out as gay for years because in college, when I went to college, you were either gay or straight. If you like guys even a little bit, then bi people don't really exist. They're liars, that kind of thing.
I went to a private Christian conservative middle school, and it was very homophobic, and that was just like completely normalized, and that was like around the time of my life where I kind of like would have started figuring out my sexuality. So it was really like, I feel like I, versus most of my other queer friends from the area, had like to deal with a lot more internalized homophobia because I was like just constantly told from the ages of like 11 to 13 that like gay people are like wrong. Like there's something like really disgusting about them.
So we're at this dinner table, I think it was like Labor Day or Memorial Day. It was Memorial Day. And the whole barbecue thing is going on, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to London for a conference on bisexuality because I volunteer for this group that fights for bisexual rights or whatever. And without missing a beat, the first thing out of my dad's mouth is like, what are you, the token straight?
I actually grew up in Alaska for the most part. I lived in Massachusetts before that. My parents got divorced, moved with my mom to Alaska. I spent most of my time growing up there, and I came back to Boston for college, and I do notice there's definitely like a lack of resources out there. Like back in Alaska, there's like an LGBT community, but it's a lot smaller. There's not really any bisexual specific resources. So when I came to Boston, I forget how I found the Bisexual Resource Center, but I was really excited when I saw that because that was the first time I'd seen anything specifically for bisexual people. And so then I started going to their meetings, and it was a really great resource to have.
I didn't struggle with it, so I didn't feel the need to like look for resources or anything. And there was like the GSA club at my high school, like Gay Straight Alliance, but it like fell apart before I realized how I identified. Like it wasn't there past like maybe 9th grade for me. So there wasn't much at the school. The only other queer person I knew was one of my closer friends, so it wasn't even like there's anyone outside of my group for me to kind of like band together with. But it kind of seems to me like unless you're in like an outlier group, like unless you're like a gay male or a trans person, there's not really a whole lot. So like if you're like a straight passing person, there's not really like a lot that's gonna, like people aren't gonna look at you and be like, oh, like I know this cool organization and you probably would benefit from it. Like there's nothing like that.
I didn't really know what I was or how for the longest time, and there just wasn't a lot of education or information out there. So maybe it's just, I don't want to say ignorance because that's kind of a negative, but I think just a lack of understanding of what sexuality is all about. I
wanted to like work in like groups to like help other people, and so I went to my school's GSA, Gender and Sexualities Alliance, which was just horrible. It was absolutely awful. I remember this girl, the president of it, and she's like, I'm gayer than you, and I'm like, it's not a competition. So I just hated that environment. And she was like the most outspoken bisexual person on our campus. So I honestly started to feel like a negative association with bisexuality almost because of her.
And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of people still think like bisexuality is like a phase, like it's a sort of like halfway step to coming out as gay or lesbian, or it's just like something you do when you're a teenager, which is probably kind of what my parents probably think of it. And
I think our lack of understanding is definitely directly related to the lack of resources and the lack of education. But where does that come from? Why is there a lack of education and resources? And I think like our Western culture and our way of thinking about how things must be for sexuality, for relationships and relating and dating and mating are all kind of like this machine, you know, like a vending machine. You know, you put a, okay, I'm dating myself. You don't put 50 cents in a vending machine and get a Coke, but you put in your money, and there are several buttons that are available for you. Those are the only sodas that are going to come out of that machine. But, you know, just all these conceptions culturally lead to the same misconceptions that keep cropping up for me over and over again. And just on their own, they just come out of people's brains and land on my lap, and they're all the same 10 or 20 stigmas and sort of accidental bigotry. And people aren't trying to be malicious, but the culture just works this machine, this magic, into it because of all the thoughts they had ahead of time. So why would anyone think there needs to be education? Why would anyone think there needs to be resources?
Anything about bisexuality specifically, I would only get on the internet. There were no spaces just for bisexual people. But if I did seek somewhere about bisexuality specifically, which probably would have been better in like my earlier phases of time, coming to terms with my sexuality, there weren't any characters that I like can relate to and align with. They will never explicitly say it. They'll be probably more like, oh, you know, she's sexually fluid and open or something. Also, like, and so like an actual bisexuality seems to be never there, and when it is there, like it's never talked about.
Huge recent example of this is Call Me By Your Name, and both characters are so blazingly, obviously bi. They are both shown enjoying women and or having girlfriends, and I don't want to give any spoilers or anything, but the point is, I mean, I was just blown away at the impact of how very obviously bisexual both of these men were. And then all the commentary about this movie is about this great gay movie, about these great gay characters. For those organizations and us, you know, presumed allies in the journalistic community and in the media, I think if they believe they're trying to be progressive, then they need to dig deep and do some soul searching and really come to grips and look face to face at the community that is being actively omitted, erased, forgotten, and is suffering.
In a lot of TV shows and movies and things, like they'll have a character who does express attraction to like more than one gender, but a lot of them won't use the word bisexual. They'll say, I'm, you know, fluid or open-minded, and that's fine, but it's like, people are afraid to use like the word bisexual. And in recent years, there have actually been like characters like on major television shows, like Brooklyn 99 has a character who's bisexual. The actress is bisexual herself too, and she has relationships with men and women. So I think that's positive because they're actually saying the word bisexual and they're showing like relationships with men and women. I think all of it just like goes back to the stigma and misconceptions. Like, you know, bi people are more likely to cheat, you know, they're promiscuous, they're indecisive and can't make up their mind.
We need to empower ourselves and come out. So the onus is on us, because, you know, like the famous Jewish philosopher Hillel said, like, if not, forget the quote, it's like, if not us, who? If not now, when?
So I think it's moving in a positive direction. There's still a lot of stigma and misconceptions to be broken, but I think I am optimistic. I think there's improvement happening.